Hey everyone, welcome to the Mindset Playground, where every story spins into inspiration. And I'm your host, LouAnne Hunt. And I am so excited that you've joined me here today because I have a very, very special guest. And, let me just give you a little bit of information about her and why I've come to love her so much. She creates not just with her hands, but with her heart and her movement. She understands that art, like life, is never still. It flows, it swirls, and it carries emotion in every direction. And you're going to find that out today on the Mindset Playground. So, without further ado, please welcome to the stage Roselle Doyle. How you doing today?
Hi. I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
Can you tell I'm a huge fan?
Yay! That was a beautiful introduction. Thank you.
Oh, that's so nice. Well, you deserve it. I'm telling you. So it's been so much fun getting to know you and your hubby as well.
Yay.
And we've got some exciting things coming up. And I have started following you as soon as I heard about you. And I'm hoping that all the listeners will start following you as well because you're so unique, but yet just classic and beautiful.
Thank you.
So, yeah. So, obviously, you're an artist and you have a beautiful piece, which we'll talk about in a few minutes,
Sure.
sitting next to you. But let's go back to the beginning, Roselle. How did you become just where you are today? Or, because I know it's all about transformation. And so let's talk about that before the big pivot.
Sure. It's been a long journey, but a really fun one. Um, so I was a figure skater before I became a full-time artist, which I'm now. I was a figure skater for a long, long time. Competitive for about 13 years and then professional for over 20 years. And I did choreography. I taught youngsters. I taught all ages actually, young to right up to professional level. And I really enjoyed that art and movement. Like it was my life for so, so long. And I had lots of ups and downs along the way, lots of bumps in the road, but I learned so much from it and so many skills that I developed over the years too from it. Now I find myself using in my art career, and it's been a wild kind of ride for me.
Well,
Yeah.
you weren't just a figure skater. Not that anybody is just a figure skater, but you weren't just a figure skater. Uh,
Mhm.
you were a champion at one point, and you skated. Did you skate at the Canadian Nationals?
I didn't actually know not the nationals in Canada, but I did compete for Great Britain because I lived in England for most of my teenage years. That was a different experience, but a very good one too. And I represented Great Britain for a while, and so I got to do nationals and some internationals there, and um, that was I loved competing. I enjoyed getting out and meeting people and showing my talent off. And I was a good competitor. I actually did really well under pressure. So um,
Oh,
yeah, it was an interesting life I had. It my goal was Olympics, but I had a lot of setbacks, a lot of injuries along the way that didn't quite get me to my goal. But lots of competitions, lots of medals along the way, and yeah, and then when I became a certain age, I started shifting more to wanting to do art in movement, and I was really getting into that and telling stories through movement and using the music to convey emotion, and so I got more into that as I got older. But when I was young,
well, I was going to say you not only figure skated,
yeah.
but you were very deeply involved in actually putting events together and right? So let's talk about that part of your
Yes,
life once you
for
were
sure.
out of the competitive world.
Yeah, I really liked being behind the camera, being behind scenes, and creating, I guess because I'm an artist, I loved creating something from nothing. And I did form my own company called Boydell, and along with my husband, we put together some theater productions, and I also worked for other companies putting ice productions together. And so I would choreograph these pieces from the ground up, and they were full length shows. And quite often it would take about six months to a year to conceive of one, to work on one show, right? But I enjoyed that process so much. It was so fun to be able to create something from nothing and then have it shown in front of people. And yeah, I did that for a number of years too.
Wow. Another thing we have in common. There you go.
That's
Now,
awesome.
you worked with many of the greats as well, helping them with their choreography. And did
Mhm.
you help put their whole programs together or?
Yeah, some of them came to me to do like show programs for them. Like for example, when I was working at the cricket club, I got hired as the team choreographer, and so I was working there. And Brian Orser, who is my childhood idol, I loved him when I was growing up watching him. He was still skating and still performing, and he came up to me one day and asked me if I would put his routines together, or a routine together. And he loved my style of movement and thought it was very unique. And I was, of course, beside myself, over the moon. And so I did work. His first program with him was to Josh Groban. It was called Mi Manquerai, and it was a beautiful lyrical piece, and he was so wonderful to work with. We had so much fun. So that's just one of the many professional skaters I did get to work with. But you say I got to work with my childhood idol, which is really fun, and that was near the beginning of my choreography career when I just sort of started getting into it seriously. So that was one of my highlights.
Yeah. And Brian Orser being from Canada,
Mhm.
and I followed, of course, as you know, Brian Orser as well. And
Yeah.
man, oh, he's just amazing as far as not just performing, but he has got to be the nicest person I've ever met that, and so easy and fun to work with. And so I know what you mean when you're talking about how great he was to work with. And we shouldn't be talking, I think he's still out there doing his work, right? So
Sure. We had
yeah.
some good laughs. We had some good laughs. And when it's such a huge respect to the choreographer when the student keeps every single move that you show them and really works on getting it, like, they don't drop out one single movement. Everything is still there when you see it performed. And he was one of those that was so thrilling to work with for that reason. And the quality of skating was so high. I mean, the best in the world, right? So but I loved working with all ages and all stages, and even the little tiny little kids, like just beginning their life career, their skating career. They were so creative with movement, and you'd ask them to be a certain character, and you give them, like, sometimes I'd give them little props to work with, like a hat or a scarf, and I'd give them a character to portray and a piece of music, and they were so creative, and I used to love working with them too. Like, so it really. I worked with like I said, all ages and ranges, and that really enriched me as a teacher and a choreographer and an artist, and
Wow.
taught me a lot of it myself, because trying to explain movement to a young child as opposed to a professional who already has everything, you really work these skills. So,
Well,
um,
that's great. And
yeah,
you had to feel those movements, I'm sure, in
yeah,
order to portray them.
yeah,
And
sure.
yeah. So were you a dancer as well?
I,
Were
I
you a
was. Yeah, I was indeed. My mom was a ballet dancer, so she's still here, but she used to do ballet quite seriously. So she taught me when I was little. So I had a ballet bar at home, and I learned all the basics from her. And she was very strict with it, which was good. I needed that at the time, and And to this day, I love bar work, like the boring ballet bar work. I love it. It's my favorite thing to do. I still do it today. I still have the basics, I enjoy.
So when it comes to, say, choreographing a piece of music, what is your what's your main inspiration? Do you pick out, do you start off with a song and, add to that, or how does that work?
I guess it depends. It depends what it's for. So if it's a show performance, for example, and putting a show together, I start off envisioning the story and the sort of seeing it unfold in my head. And so I start seeing the dance, and I start seeing based on the story and the character first. And then quite often the music will be something that I research and I find. So it'll come later, the music, because I'll have that story so solid, and that's what I want to, and then so the emotion I want to convey, the story I want to tell, and then I'll go searching for the right piece, and that could take a while, really, to find the right music. And other times I've heard a piece of music and the stories come out of that. So I've been like, I got to use that piece of music because I want to tell the story that, is connecting me to it right away. So I guess it really depends. The motivation, the inspiration can come from either place, from anywhere, really. But it can either be music first or story first.
Wow. So
Right.
let's talk about your transition. No, this is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. I could do a whole show on your amazing, choreography and your talents, but let's talk about your transformation. So why did you decide that it was time to maybe hang up your skates?
Yeah, it wasn't easy because it was everything I lived and breathed for a very long time, and it was a huge part of me, and it still is to a degree. I still will move to music. I'll still get on the ice once in a while and skate. I just don't teach it anymore now. But I got to the stage where I felt like I had done a lot, and I had achieved more than I even set out to, more than I had put on paper as goals. I achieved things that I'd never even thought about, so I had done a lot, and it took me on an exciting ride. And I got to a stage where my body was starting to say, it was starting to scream a bit at me more. Like I couldn't do certain spins and certain moves the same way anymore. And I started to sort of shift my focus because I always loved art. Like visual art was something I always did on the side. So if I wasn't skating, I was painting or sketching. It was just I needed that creative outlet. um, and so the painting was used and the sketching was used more to calm my busy choreographer skater mind, because you never shut off. You're always, even when you get off the ice, even at home, even at night, you're hearing the music while you're sleeping. You're always thinking. So the painting was something that focused my mind and kind of calmed it down, and just allowed me to take a break from all the other stuff. And I just, when COVID happened, I started going a little bit insane with what do I do creatively? There wasn't an outlet because everything was shut down, and I found it challenging as a choreographer. I find it very challenging to teach via video, because I was always a very hands-on type of choreographer, and I had to see the full body, and I had to be there helping them move their body properly. So the video, I found it was very difficult, right, to sort of get what I wanted out of the skater. So I did do some lessons with that, and I found that it just wasn't enough for me creatively. It wasn't satisfying that creative need I had. And so instead, I started doing more paintings. I picked up my paintbrush again and discovered a new medium, which was acrylics. I'd always used oil paints before that. So I started playing with acrylic paints, and I started painting skaters and dancers. And so what I couldn't do on the ice, I kind of tried to transfer to the canvas. And I found that I was really enjoying it, and I felt really free from it. Nobody was telling me what I could or couldn't do. There were no rules, and I love that freedom, that feel, and I just it sort of grew out. It sort of grew from there, right? Um, and yeah, I slowly started doing less and less of the skating and more of the art. You
Well,
know?
that's great. So I know that you describe your art as kind of a form of self-portraiture
Yes.
and a glimpse into your soul.
Mhm.
So when you look at one of your finished pieces, what part of you do you see reflected back the most? Is it the skater, the artist, or the woman who has lived all of that experience?
I would have to say the third one, yeah, that all the experience, I really feel that my life experiences as a skater, as a woman, as a dancer, um, has sort of shaped my art now, and who I am now, and how what my life is now, and where I live is always inspiring my art, and I'm always refining it too, because my art from 15 years ago was well, not completely, but very different than what it is now. And I think that all my life experiences have really helped, enrich the art. And um, I like to keep it keeps growing though. Like my art keeps changing all the time. My swirling style is there, but every piece that I do is sort of more refined than the last. I know in some way refined. It's like I'm always evolving and changing as an artist, and
Aw.
as a person too, right? I'm always changing, and I'm trying to see things differently as I get older, and new perspective.
Do you still listen to music while you paint?
I do. Yes, yes, I do. I have to be careful with that because I'm a very musical person. So I've always been naturally very musical. Um, I played piano. I could play by ear. When music's played in the background, I can dance to it without even realizing I'm dancing. So I'm very good at improv with music. So I have to be careful while I'm painting with music because unless I want it to be an improv painting, I'll start to kind of do things with my paintbrush that maybe I didn't want to do, right? Starts to move a little bit. So, and whatever the music is, if it's a really powerful piece, the painting will come out powerful too. It sort of matches what you're. It's it's very interesting that way. And I often thought of getting a really large canvas, putting on a piece of music, and just letting myself go and see what comes out. I haven't done that yet, really, and I'd like to.
Yeah, that would be fun, actually. I'd
It's
love
no
to.
fun.
I can't wait to see what you end up with.
Yeah, like an improv paint session, where you're not
That's a
planned
great
out.
idea.
Normally, all my pieces are planned out, right? So,
You should like rent a big warehouse somewhere and have an expressive paint day where, like these paint nights and
yes,
where we can, of course, you're going to have to wait until like I can go and
yeah,
and then we could do like a whole expressive paint night, right? Wouldn't that
yeah.
be fun just
It
to
is
see what
fun.
you end up with? Oh, wow. But
Yeah.
anyway, so you moved from expressing emotion through your body on the ice to expressing it through your paints on canvas.
Mhm.
This is a really good question. How did your mindset shift when you transitioned from performance art to visual art? And what did you have to let go of to allow that evolution?
Yeah, that's interesting. There. I'm trying to think of the shift. The shift was more. Gosh, there's so many similarities that it's hard. It was very organic, the shift. It wasn't something that I really tried hard at. I let the flow happen. So when I was on the ice, there was always a natural flow, right? There was always inspiration that moved everything that I did. Um, and when I transferred that to the canvas, um, the mindset was still inspiration and flow, and so it was very similar. Um, I guess, gosh, it's like, did I let go of control a little bit? On the ice, things have to be a bit more controlled, and your art has to have certain rules and you have to follow certain, like in skating, you have certain rules to your even the artistic components. So you're a little more tied, like your hands are a little more tied. You have to do work within a certain number of different rules to. Um, it's just how it is, right, with competitive skating, and so you don't have that pure freedom. So I think when I moved to visual art, um, that changed in me where I was like, hey, I don't have to work within the rules anymore. So I can be absolutely free. I don't have to follow anybody's sort of plans, right? Um, and so that was I think that was a big change for me that I enjoyed. That was a transformation I enjoyed. And it freed me up because I could paint absolutely anything I wanted and any way that I wanted. And the only difficult part after it was whether I was ready to show that to people and receive criticism, right? That can be a very, but not for a figure skater who's received criticism their whole life. So, but it's a different medium, right? I was used to skating. I knew where my strengths and weaknesses were. In art, I wasn't so used to critique yet. So I had to open myself up to that, and that was hard at first. So I don't even know if I've answered your question or gone around the
Yes, you did. Absolutely.
world.
So that kind of ties into the next question. How do you stay connected to your creative flow when life feels still heavy or uncertain? And I guess that's a great question to kind of go back to COVID,
Yeah.
because did you feel like life was kind of heavy back then?
Mhm. Oh, for sure. I think for everybody, uncertain for sure. And um, I think that made me gravitate more to the art because art is such freedom. I mean, if you don't have any rules in art, if you don't put rules on your own art too, then you are so free, and that world can be a nice escape from the real world. It can be so healing and something that we need as artists to take us away. Finding inspiration, I go out in nature and I find it, so I can find it anywhere. I've been very good at that with over the years finding inspiration. So even though things get heavy in the world, I can retreat into my own little place and create in my
Yeah.
little bubbly, effervescent world. you know?
So when you decide, so we're going to talk about that beautiful painting that's sitting next to you right now.
Mhm.
When did you do this one?
This one was a couple years ago now, 2024. Yeah, January 2024. So 2 years ago now. Wow, that went by fast.
Yeah.
This
Well,
one
it's
was,
kind of like the anniversary.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I finished it in
So
January. Mhm,
when you get an idea
mhm.
about something that you want to create, where does that come from? Like, that is
Yeah,
definitely a story, which we'll talk about.
yeah,
So
for
that one
sure.
is an actual story.
Mhm.
So when you come up, say for example, let's focus on this one painting right now. What do you call this painting?
So this one's called Lunch Atop the Rock, and it is basically inspired from the painting everyone knows, or not painting, but the photo everyone knows called Lunch Atop a Skyscraper, which is from 1932, and it's the Newfoundlanders. I'm told they're all Newfoundlanders. I could be wrong, but many people have told me that, and they're sort of sitting over New York on a beam, and they were ironworkers, and at the time a lot of them came from Newfoundland. So I love that photo, and I've seen that photo many, many places, and a lot of people have that. So this one is the same, but with puffins. So the puffins they matched up to the original guys sitting up there, and instead of little cigarettes, I gave them fish, and then instead of a booze bottle, one of the guys had a booze bottle. I gave the guy the little puffin a fish there, so made it appropriate. um,
So the puffin, that is native to Newfoundland, correct? Is that like the national bird or?
Yes, that's the bird of of this province for sure. That and I having a husband who's a Newfoundlander, I definitely knew about puffins, and I thought, well, it'd be fun to do a puffin piece. I just because puffins are cute birds. I love birds. I'm a big fan of birds. And so I was sitting one day watching TV and just sketching because I like to sketch at night. And then I thought about my father-in-law who was an iron worker, and he was a runner too. He used to do a lot of the Terry Fox runs and walks and raise money for the Avalon Peninsula in this area. And anyways, he was a funny guy. He was really always coming up with something funny, and my husband's taken that on too. He's got a lot of comedy in him, and always making me laugh. And I love to laugh. I grew up with comedy, so I love that side of me, that quirky, whimsical side. So this one, it sort of started a whole series, a whimsical puffin series that are now I have like 16 pieces in the series. But this one started it all, and like I said, I was just sketching one day, and I'm like, I'm going to sketch the. I took the original photo there of the guys over New York, um, and I started transferring them on paper into puffins, and so I matched their positions, and I thought this is cool. I was just having fun, and I wanted to do something that would honor my father-in-law's memory in a way. And I thought, hey, what if I put them over my version of St. John's? Use some of the main buildings, take creative license, of course, because that's what I do as an artist. Um, and so I put them over. Um, St. John's to me is just color and life, and it's so beautiful. I can drive around there just looking at the row houses and all the different colored houses, and so I thought I got to add that in, and that's why I chose a very colorful city there. And so instead of over New York, they're over St. John's.
That's a
So
great idea.
yeah, and I've got the basilica there. The basilica was built in the late 1800s, and which is interesting because back then they didn't have these power tools or anything. And I recently visited the basilica inside, and it is so beautiful. And the architecture up on the ceiling and everything, and all the stained glass windows and the statues, and I was just in awe of it. So I'm glad I actually put it in the painting there. And it survived the Great Fire that happened in St. John's, and it didn't get burned down. So it's really cool. So that ended up there, and then the rooms is the big art gallery that we have in St. John's, and that one's there, the rooms. And then I put a couple of pubs and row houses and the memorial on Water Street, which has a soldier in there. So my father-in-law was a veteran as well, and he fought in the Korean War. And so there's also like a little ironworker statue there. So that was kind of appropriate. He was an ironworker and a veteran. And then there's also the Terry Fox Monument, which is there, and that's a really nice little statue to visit when you're down in St. John's. Um, so I put that in as a nod to him as well. And then the boats in the harbor, the food trucks, and of course Cabot Tower up there, which you got to visit. Everyone's got to visit Cabot Tower. It's a cool spot. So that sort of became one of my best sellers, actually, when I never thought of that in the beginning. I wasn't like, oh, this is going to do well. I had no idea. And I just wanted to do something fun that made people laugh. And the best thing for me as an artist is to see people's reaction emotionally. Like when I was skating, and if I was skating to like a sad piece, like a tribute piece, for example, and it was sad, and I would look out and see people crying in the audience, I knew that I had actually reached them, emotionally. So I was like, I was excited about that. I was
Yeah,
like,
that's great.
my message.
Yeah.
So I was able to convey that emotion, right? And as artists, that's what we want. So when people walk by my table at markets and they point and they chuckle and they're like, I know that one. That's from the ironworker one. And even if they stop and just laugh and chuckle to their friend, like they'll do that. And even if they don't buy the art, then they keep going. I know that it's sort of reached them in some way, and it's made them laugh, and it's maybe changed their day in a small way. That makes me feel good. But yeah, it's my comedic side. Like I have a serious side, and I have a dancer side, and I have a side that loves landscapes and all different things, and I have a spiritual side too. But this is my comedic side, and I love the series right now because I'm having a good time with it. So, yeah, that's the story behind it.
That's wonderful. And so is this kind of your like you're well known for this piece?
Yeah, I mean, this is probably my best selling piece. I want to say it's done the best so far. All of my landscapes do really well. Um, but this one, yeah, is sort of at the top of it. And because of its connection, and sort of, and people can really relate to it, but also it's very Newfoundland, right? It's very, it has a charm and it's just a funny sort of nature. It's a good conversation piece too, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And
If
I made
somebody,
sure they kept their little hats on there. That's important.
yeah,
Their little
they're
hats,
little, what
flat
are they
caps,
called? Those little, yeah, those little,
The Irish flat caps. Yeah,
yes.
love those. Yeah.
So I do have a question about it, if it's okay. So,
Mhm.
as we know, the iconic photograph Lunch Atop a Skyscraper was taken in 1932, like you said, during the Great Depression, high
Mhm.
above New York City at Rockefeller Center.
Mhm.
It shows 11 steelworkers casually eating lunch while sitting on a beam nearly 70 floors above the ground with no safety harnesses.
Yeah.
So, the reason why it's so important is because even when jobs were scarce and fear was everywhere, these men showed up anyway, balancing risk, livelihood, and trust, suspended between sky and city. The image has come to represent resilience, courage, brotherhood, and the mindset of moving forward when nothing feels secure.
Mhm.
So,
Wow.
isn't that interesting? So now, reflecting on your piece, when you chose to interpret the steelworker's lunch through your art, what
Mhm.
emotion or message felt most important for you to preserve? Was it the danger, the camaraderie,
Mm.
or quiet courage of simply showing up?
Oh, I like that.
Which one do you think?
I think for me it would be the camaraderie. Um, and I don't know, I chose the puffins because of their connection to Newfoundland. But they're very community-based birds. So I would have to say that sort of very similar in that they work together really well. So I'm told anyway. They're very tightly knit, and they have one puffling a year, only one baby a year. But they are, like I said, very much a community. So I think that's kind of cool in the camaraderie sense, right? Um,
Yeah,
and that was yeah, and I just I love what you said though. That's really cool. I'm gonna have to remember that too. And I'm talking
yeah,
to people because quite often people will ask me about that painting or that photo.
yeah. Well, we'll definitely send this to you so that you have it. Because
Yeah.
I know that you talked about that. You said that now you're getting into things like people want to know the mindset behind your work. They want to know where it comes from. People don't want to just buy piece because it's pretty. I mean, that is a great way or a great reason to buy a piece, but they want to know, like you said, more
Mhm.
about that.
Yeah.
And I know that we have discussed that we're going to maybe put together a series and we're going to talk about mindset behind your pieces and the stories behind your pieces so that people will get a little more flair or
Yeah.
get that emotional side of
Yeah.
Roselle.
Yes.
And
Totally.
now I know that you've recently stepped more fully into sharing, marketing, and showing your art publicly. So, what inner dialogue or belief did you have to rewrite in order to confidently say, "This is my work and it deserves to be seen"?
Yeah. That's a wonderful question. I really had to get away from the need for approval, and that's very tough. That is was very hard for me as a figure skater for many years because we were always looking for approval from judges, approval from the audience, um, from coaches. So everybody else would tell you whether you're good or not. And my dad used to say, if you seek the approval of others, you become their prisoner. So if you're seeking approval with your art, it's going to keep you in this little prison, right? And it's not going to allow you to really expand. And and so the biggest thing when I'm showing art is that I cannot be tied to that to people's approval. I have to be happy with what I've put out there and confident, not arrogant, confident. There's a difference. Confident in my abilities, and you know, and just get it out there. And if I love a piece of art, then really at the end of the day, if someone else doesn't love it, I can't be affected by that as much. It can't bother me. It's gotta, it's like really training your mind as an athlete, to not have when I was competing, other athletes come and say nasty things, or they'll say things to throw you off your game, right? That used to happen in competition in the changing rooms. There would be these mind games that went on, and you had to really try to focus so much that none of that bothers you, and you had to be confident and ready and sort of stay within yourself and remember why you're doing it, right? But you would have a lot of this going on. And with art, you can have that too. When you go and you show at galleries or show at things, you'll have a lot of critiques coming your way. There might be some people that love your art, and then there might be some that say something not so positive about it. So you really have to stay, confident and not seek their approval, you know. But it's a tough one. It's really tough
Yeah.
in the world of likes and approval all online. It can be very tough for an artist to show their work. So it does take courage. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So I look so forward to working with you on some of your pieces. I just can't wait. I'm not going to be painting them, but I will.
Okay.
I will love to work with you and get the stories behind those paintings. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm so glad that you've agreed to do that with me. I'm really
Sure.
excited.
For sure.
Yeah. So,
And some of them are so fun and simple, though. So some are more complex, but some are simple. And that's what I love about art. As long as you have an inspiration, it doesn't matter where it comes from. As long as it fuels you, then it's kind of cool. It can come from anywhere, right?
yeah.
I've been listening to songs, and then all of a sudden it inspired a painting. So yeah, it can be anything.
Wow. So I hate to end this, but I always ask all of my guests before I go for three golden nuggets that you can leave the audience with. So,
Okay.
what would your three golden nuggets for today's interview be?
Golden nuggets. Wow, I like that. I like golden nuggets. They sound cool. um, the first one I think would be for artists, and it can be any artist. And I usually tell younger artists this is make the art that you want to make, that your heart wants to make, um, that inspires you and that makes you feel alive. Like I fill my walls with that type of art, and um, it's it's hard to, sometimes you're like, oh, I got to make this because I know it's going to sell, and then the thing is, out of experience, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to sell. I've had things I've done thinking that they were market pieces that they would do well at markets, and they got ignored. So it's like you got to make the art that tell the story you want to tell. Make the art you want to make because it's going to be alive. It's going to have energy. It's going to be you. That's where it really becomes self-portraiture, rather than making what you think others will enjoy. At least start with that if you're going to make art. Start with the art that you want, the story you want to tell. That's the
Okay.
first, that's the first golden nugget. I don't know. That
That's
helps.
perfect.
um, I guess sometimes things are not working out. Like you cannot. This would be my second nugget. Um, Sometimes you can't force flow and inspiration. So so I'll be sitting in front of the canvas and not necessarily in a good flow that day. Maybe not in the right mindset to create something, that day or to create the subject I chose. So you can't force art, So what I do, and I used to do this with choreography a lot, if nothing was flowing, I would leave it. I would go away from it for a few hours. I'd get out, walk in nature, come back to it with a different mindset, like on a different day or a few hours later, and I would sit down and try again. And so the rule of three, I have a rule of three for myself. If I've done that three times and there's still no flow going, then I know that I've chosen the wrong thing, the wrong subject to paint, or in the past, it would be the wrong music to skate to or to perform to. So I would change the music and all of a sudden the flow would come. So I just knew that it was the wrong thing at the wrong time. So I'm not meant to be painting this right now. I'll shelve it and I'll work on something different. So that's my little rule of three, right? Rather than sit and get frustrated and force it out, nothing's going to come out. And then you end up tearing the canvas up. And no, haven't done that, I promise. um,
Okay.
yeah. And I guess the third one would be I've had a lot of people come to me and say, I want to do art, but I have no talent. And this could be for anyone. Um, Art really isn't about talent, it's about how you execute your inspiration. And, yes, you're going to be, if you want to become a professional artist, you got to put in the time and you got to put in the hours and you will find you have talents. Like I have a natural talent for, like I said, musicality, or I have a natural talent for color combining, but I never picked up a brush and was good right away. So I just had inspiration and, and excitement for what I was doing. And that's how I started. And so that's how people can start, honestly. And you'll find your talent later, might jump out at you. So,
Wow. Those
yeah,
are some beautiful three golden nuggets.
thanks
So
so much.
I just want to say thank you so much for joining me on the Mindset Playground. And I look forward to working with you again real soon. So
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you very much. I really enjoyed this. Thank you.
And I'm going to make sure that all of your information is at the bottom and in the description so that everybody knows where to find you, where to find your art.
For sure.
And yeah, and if they have any questions or anything, they can reach out.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, LouAnne.
Thank you.